Hey everyone, I'm your host, Sarah Russell, founder of Alloyed, the marketing agency alternative. Welcome to After Hours. After Hours is a podcast for business owners and marketing professionals who want to cut the BS and take control of their marketing. We'll crack open a cold one with industry experts and dig deep into the best practices, pitfalls, and untold secrets of marketing today. After Hours is your backstage VIP pass to the world of advertising and brand building. So let's dive in. Hello, everyone. I am joined today with Kilee Lorenz from Bondi Marketing. Kilee is calling in. You're located in Nebraska. Is that correct, Kilee?
Yes.
Dialing in from Nebraska. Welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Kilee and I are going to talk through, basically we're going to unpack this word branding, because the word branding, I think, has a lot of different potentially meanings to different people, depending on who you are and depending on where you come from with your marketing or business background. And Kilee is a brand strategist, and I'm going to let her introduce herself here in a second. But we are going to dig into that and help businesses and business owners understand what is branding and why do I need it, or do I need it, is the question. So Kilee, go ahead, introduce yourself, tell us what you've been up to, and share, what you're doing.
Perfect. Well, thank you for having me, Sarah. I'm excited to be here and share one of my favorite topics. Branding and marketing strategy is like what I get so excited to wake up in the morning and have a cup of coffee and dive into. But I have started Bondi Marketing, and I offer brand planning and marketing strategy and support to local businesses to really help them understand who their business is, which is that branding aspect, and how to reach their customers to really ultimately grow their business. So I have been working in marketing for over a decade, both at agencies and in corporate America, and just decided that I really wanted to do something on my own and craft what that brand and marketing strategy looked like to me. So that is what I'm excited to share today.
Amazing. Yes. And congrats on taking the leap into business ownership. That's very exciting. Big moves. Big moves.
Big moves.
Yes. I'm curious, where did the name Bondi come from?
Good question. When I was studying abroad, in college, I studied abroad and I went to Australia, and I almost didn't go. I was so scared to go on a flight and be away from South Dakota. And the first day we ended at Bondi Beach. And I just felt so inspired by how big the world is and what's out there. And so when I was thinking about what inspired me and what what a marketing strategy can do is really lead you to a destination that has transformative changes for you and your business. That. And I closed my eyes and I was like, where is that for me? And I was transported back to Australia. And so Bondi Marketing became that. So that's where it came from.
Oh my gosh. I love that story. That's so fun. I'm so glad I asked. That's so interesting. I love seeing it as a destination. That's really cool.
Yes.
Visual image I get about branding. So, well, kudos to you and making the leap to, owning your own business. That's really exciting. And it's a scary journey to be on sometimes, and making that leap. So I think it takes an immense amount of bravery and courage to do that. So I just want to acknowledge that.
Well, thank you, Sarah. It's nice to have some friends in the lane working with you and saying, we've got this. So I appreciate all you've done and your encouragement.
Yes. Before we start talking about, what is branding, what is it about branding to you that has made you fall in love with, that industry or that area of marketing and business development?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say throughout my marketing career, I started in consumer research, where I really got to go in depth on what consumers, who they are, what drives them, and just I'm just an always been curious. I've asked why 1,017 times, which now I understand because I have a toddler who does the same thing, but it's working out well. It's a passion of mine to really dig deep for insights. And I think that passion leads me to think about business differently, where what makes a business different, figuring out what a business offers and what makes them different and where their customers are and what they need, and kind of that intersection and that sweet spot of insights really just drives me to figure it out for a business. Because once we figure out your business and your customers and we align the two, it's just where transformative changes can happen for both your business and your customers. So I think whether it's selling a taco or selling healthcare or selling a service or product, it matters to both your business and customer. And that's what really drives me forward.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I love that it matters, and we'll kind of dig into why. So I think that's a really great segue into why it matters. And I almost forgot that we have to crack open our cold one. So before we dig in, are you ready to crack this open?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. I'm like, what flavor did you pick?
Yeah. So, normally if you've caught previous episodes of our show, we usually partake in some sort of a adult beverage, but it is 9 a.m. on a Monday when we're recording this. So Kilee and I both, we were texting each other before this. I was like, "Are you gonna drink?" Because I'm not, I don't think, and it's okay if you are. But we both opted for some sparkling water on this lovely Monday morning. I've got a San Pellegrino. I really like these. These are very nice. This is a tangerine and wild strawberry. And what do you have?
Delicious. The grapefruit pamplemousse. I'm really not picky when it comes to I'm not really that picky. So I'm like, whatever's in the fridge is good with me. So yeah.
Yes. Very
caffeine, nice. One hand, LaCroix on the other.
Yes.
How I like to do it.
Love it. Well, let's dig into branding. Maybe, ultimately we want to get to why does it matter, but maybe a good place to start, just sort of leveling the playing field here across all of our listeners, and talk about, what is branding? What does that mean? And I think maybe the most common sort of misconception of what branding is that it's simply a logo. It's the logo design you have on your building, on your sign. That's your brand. And I think what we want to make sure people walk away from this understanding is that it is so much more than that.
So much more.
So why don't you give us your sort of, high school level explanation of what branding is?
Yeah. I would say branding is really the essence of who your business is. If we think about what's true to you as a business, what you offer, who you are consistently is what we want to say your brand is. It's really your identity. If you think of your brand as a person, how are they showing up? Who are they? I think that's always a fun exercise of personifying your brand.
Yeah.
But your brand is really your first impression to anyone. And that's why it's so important. It's important that you understand it and your customers understand it. Otherwise, you're kind of just floating out there.
Yeah.
It's a logo and your look and feel, which Sarah does a wonderful job doing. It's also figuring out what makes you different, your differentiators, who your market is, who your customers are. So it's all of that foundational element of who you are as a business to your customers that shows up online and is that consistent experience. So that's why it's important for everyone, no matter if you're just starting out in a small shop or if you're a large corporation, that you really have those foundational elements understood and shared with everyone that interacts with your business.
Yeah, I love that. And to take it like one step further too, I loved how you said, thinking about your brand as a person. I think that's an amazing analogy, because what branding gets at its core is that humans are all about relationships. Humans make connections to other humans, to pets to,
Totally.
everything is all about connection and relationships. And that also applies to business and who people choose to do business with is all about a relationship. And so if you are creating your business and you don't think about, laying that groundwork in order to enable people to make that connection with your business, if you think, well, I just sell lawn equipment, so
Right.
why do I need to care about personifying my lawn equipment company? Well, it does matter because people want to have that connection, even when
Absolutely.
they're buying a lawnmower, and
Yeah.
so I think that's a really great, point to consider.
Yeah. I think one of the trends we see too is that consumers are looking for personalized experiences and
Mm,
wanting brands to really know them. So as long as, that connection too, if it's exactly how you want to show up, that you want to almost, do you want to be that best friend that's available on Friday night to go for happy hour? Or are you the person that's going to help them, study in the morning? Like it just really kind of depends on your brand personality. But that's what we really unpack, and I think is really important as your brand evolves and customers and people change. It's just important to have that
yeah.
foundation.
Yes. Awesome. So if you're working with a new business, and they understand the importance of developing a strong brand foundation, where do you start? How do you even begin that process, or how do you even begin to know, which direction potentially to take your brand,
Yeah,
in order to make sure that you're, because you could create the wrong brand personality too, and it all has to be
absolutely.
done correctly for it to, have the biggest impact for your audience and your customers. So I guess, where do you start?
Yeah. Yeah, we normally would start with a discovery conversation, really unpacking where the brand is now and the services and competitors they have in the market, who their people are. We call personas, is what we call a fictional character that exemplifies a customer, so
Mm-hmm.
that it's, Sarah and Kilee are two different types of customers, and that's who we're trying to reach. So I think really unpacking sales data to make sure that the customers are who they say they are. Sometimes there's a discrepancy between what a business thinks and what is actually happening. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd say like that discovery period is all about meeting with stakeholders, looking at data. And then I think there's a lot of things on the back end that we do, looking at customer research, maybe performing research to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that we have sentiments that the actual people that use your brand feel
Mm-hmm.
about your brand, kind of test out messaging and whatnot. I think it kind of can be a little bit of everything, but I'm a big believer in research and making sure that the decisions that we lay forward for your brand are backed and tried and true versus just saying we think it's this. I'd rather have data and knowledge of why we're making those decisions, for especially for brand and strategy work. I mean, it's really important to have.
For sure. For sure. One thing I'm kind of curious about is, what are you listening for in those discovery sessions,
Hmm.
or what are you looking for in those discovery sessions that would help differentiate a brand? Because if you think about like an industry or a specific type of business, a lot of their customers are going to be the same, their
Right.
competitors are going to be the same. So you're going to find, through some of that discovery, which is essential,
Hmm.
but is a sea of sameness. And I guess
Yeah.
what I'm curious about from your perspective is, what do you add into that? What's that secret sauce that then outputs a brand that is unique and different,
Yeah. I think that the three uniques that Traction talks about in the entrepreneurial system, or brand differentiators or key differences, that's
Mm,
really what we're trying to unpack in a lot of brand planning, is what does make you different in a sea of same. You can't just say, we are all the same, because, well, how is a customer going to choose you over your competitor? So you
mm-hmm,
have to dial it back and say, here's what really makes us unique, and we got
mm-hmm.
to sell that all the time. And that's the consistent experience that my brand offers. So that brand promise is really, you have to have something different. Why did you get into business? What service or what customer experience are you offering? A lot of it comes back to customer experience, kind of tying it back to people want personalized experiences. So what's in it for me?
Yeah.
What are you going to offer me every time? So really if you don't have that as a business, we would work through that together and really build your brand together and really hunt for those differences and then operationalize it. I love operationalizing things too on that side. So we can partner with you and say, this is how we're going to do it as a team. So it's kind of that full picture, but I'd say that's really at the bread and butter of a brand too. It's just your brand promise.
Yeah. I think that's really important though, because
totally,
I think a lot of people, who are starting out a business or managing a business or are in business today, they may have a really solid understanding of who their customers are and who their competitors are. And they have that foundational, foundation, for lack of a better way to say that, really dialed in. But where they might need help pushing it further is that piece of like, well, then why choose you? If you do it, you've got all the equipment that everybody wants, or you've got all those products that everybody wants, but why choose your store as opposed to the one down the street?
Exactly.
And dialing that in, I think that's really key piece of telling, that's a key ingredient in what your brand is. So I guess, on that note, what do you, is it that piece that you think businesses struggle with the most? Or is there other challenges or obstacles that business owners might face when it comes to defining their brand?
Yeah, I think that is definitely one that we see because, then I say as a secondary, part to that is just making sure they understand who their people are and how to reach them. So once we lay out the foundation for your brand, it's really figuring out your people and how you are different in the market. So I'd say that leads us to how we create strong tactics to reach your goals is understanding what makes you different, what you're selling, and who you're selling it to. So we can really reach them with the right message at the right time with the right tactic. We provide marketing strategies after we have that brand foundation that really get at those actionable tactics to drive business success. So I think it's really difficult to keep up with how people are changing. You think about pre-pandemic to pandemic to post-pandemic. People they've changed so much in the matter of 3 years that you really have to evolve with the times. And that's not a bad thing. It's just making sure your brand keeps that consistent promise, but then maybe talks to your customers in different ways and reaches them in different ways. So I think it's a little bit of people building and the differentiators to answer your question.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to take a step back again. Just, we talked about going through like a discovery session. We talked a real high level of like, what is a brand and why does it matter? I think business owners are probably more left brain analytical people, not to overly generalize, but, so I think it might be helpful to hear what are those tangible things that you walk away with in hand from going through like a branding exercise, a branding strategy exercise.
Yeah. So after the discovery call, we take we do research and we kind of synthesize all of the information for your business. And so what you would end up receiving would be a PowerPoint or a deck of your brand logos, your mission values, that core meat, maybe your creative look and feel, if that's something that you're engaging us with. But you're also going to walk away with your your key differentiators. You're going to walk away with persona work, who your customer is, which helps, maybe some market research. You're going to walk away with it's almost like a hard copy deliverable, but also just this playbook of who
Mm,
your brand is. And that's something that you can share or refer back to when a new employee starts, when you're walking through a quarterly sales meeting. Everything should tie back to these things. It's really your brand why, what's authentic to you. So it's not necessarily, a flyer or whatever. It's really just your brand meat. So it's hard to understand that sometimes, but it's your playbook.
when you talk about having this sort of playbook to refer back to when you're making business decisions, um, applying that to all of the different things that you later create for your business. So, like if you decide to run a promotion, let's say,
Hmm.
it should go through your brand filter. If you're creating a website, it should go through your brand filter. Um,
Absolutely.
but one thing I wanted to ask about too was employees, people that work
Hmm.
for you. Um, I think it's an important piece of the puzzle because a lot of times, especially if you're in a customer facing role for the company, you become in
The
essence
company.
the
Hmm.
company. You become a representative of the
Absolutely.
brand, and so what sorts of things should a business do to help ensure that um, their employees understand the brand and understand, the importance of it. And, you know, it's one thing I think for a business owner to fully grasp that, but I think it's a whole nother battle to try to get your internal team to grasp that. Do you have any advice for business owners who, might be struggling with that?
I think it is hard. And I think a lot of the times communicating the values, making it really clear of your three uniques, what makes us different, and having really strong mission, values, those core brand elements. And you hire people are attracted to brands that, you fit the mold or you don't. But we all
Hmm.
kind of, I think it takes place in really making your brand everything that it is.
Hmm.
Your business is living, breathing. Your brand is living and breathing. So hiring for people that fit that mold, attracting people that way. But I think it's really just that backdrop of everything. So
Hmm.
hiring questions based off of the differentiators, what they really are the brand to a
Hmm.
customer.
For
So
sure.
that you said
Yeah.
that exactly right. So I think they just have to really align and understand and know, live, breathe the brand,
Hmm.
to understand that.
For sure. And I think it's important too on the opposite side of that, when you are developing a brand, you know, having a strong brand actually makes it easier on the opposite end of implementing that and getting your employees to buy into that and be proud to be a part of that brand. So if you have a really strong, authentic brand story, brand personality, um,
Yeah.
much like people want to grab onto these connections, like your employees are going to grab onto that and live your brand because it's something that they just can easily like take that in and internalize that and personalize that because you've done a good job on the front
Yeah.
end in, creating a good brand.
Yeah, and I think all of like if you have a space, all of your, the branding can come alive in different ways. You can,
Hmm.
have tangible ways of sharing your brand or tangible ways of sharing your customer experience in just different ways. And I think
Hmm.
it makes it easier for employees and customers to understand what it means. But yeah, you said it exactly, the nail on the head.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think, we talked a little bit about where business owners might have this sort of misconception or misunderstanding that a brand is just a logo. And I on the site, just so you kind of understand, Kilee does a lot of the strategy, and I've done a lot of work on the developing that logo, developing that brand's visual identity, taking that brand strategy and then extending that out into
Hmm.
other visual applications of a brand like a website and things like that. But one of the things that I've really struggled with in the past in doing logo projects with people is that they think that you should be able to look at this logo that we've created and see all of these ideas and see that story. And while the idea and the brand and the story should be embedded in your logo, and it should be a consideration and part of the logo design, the brand, like you said, is this living, breathing thing that takes time to develop. If you think about the Nike logo, the swoosh, right? Like the first day that they had that on a piece of paper, like it looked cool, like people liked it, it was good, but it did not mean what it means today when you look at it
Right.
and you understand that full rich history of the brand, right? Like it has grown and developed and become, it has become what it's supposed to be.
Right.
And so that's, I
Mm-hmm.
think, some of the myths or misconceptions around like logo design is that it's got to be immediately like recognizable and like immediately this like powerful meaning symbol,
Yeah.
but the brand has to take time to develop that.
Yeah. It's like an
What are
extension of your brand. Like there's all
exactly?
these elements and it's not just one thing.
Yeah,
It's all of them together
all
to
of
really
it
tell your
together.
brand story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that like after you have your branding, tying together with a marketing strategy of actual tactics that tie back to data and tie back to reason can
Mm-hmm.
really, it's like an extension of sharing your brand story and just giving you that roadmap for it. So it's all just like tools in a toolbox to really help your brand stand out and grow.
What do you think are some other misconceptions around brand strategy? Like what have you run, mine is that people think a logo
Yeah.
is going to carry the weight of your brand from day one, and that's just not the case. What have you run into that you've kind of had to work people back from? Yeah.
I think some businesses don't understand what it is or what they're going to get with their investment. It can be, if you're doing all the things, it's like, well, what do I actually get? But it's actually how you appear to your customer. It's your first impression. It gets you in front of the right people with the right message at the right time. And that's well worth the investment. Kind of like we talked about hiring the right people. What's your message in the market? I mean, these brand foundations are a really solid investment for your brand and business forward. So I think the misconception is that I already know my brand or I don't need branding or marketing strategy help. And it's just a tool to really lay that strong foundation for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that I've heard before. I'm like, hold on. Yeah, it's not just the logo, but it's all the elements that make your business different.
Are there different sort of I've done very large corporate brand identity projects where we went through like brand archetype exercises and things like that to really personify the brand. And I mean, it was a like 6 to 9 month really
Yeah.
laborious process, right? And it was the work developed out of it was really, really solid. But my question, I guess, for those listening and feel like, I've just got this small local business and I don't need to do this great, like, this huge grand branding archetype, all of that type of work. What are there different approaches to branding that you can kind of tailor based on the size of the businesses? Or is there a business that's just like, you're too small, you don't need this? Or, what do you think about that?
That's a great question because, yeah, I've been part of rebrands where we do months of research and testing messages and who are these, all that, all the way to helping a franchise owner differentiate in the market. They have tools from their franchise, but they don't know how to execute it or really what makes their studio different. So
Mm,
I really think it comes back. You can scale it, of course, depending on the needs. But I think every business owner needs some help saying, okay, I may have the tools, but what does it mean for my business? Like for the
mm,
example of the franchise owner, I think a lot of businesses do struggle with the brand differentiators and just their people. Who are their people? So no matter what, we normally will deep dive there. Another way kind of around, if we can't do a lot of research kind of like those rebrands is just looking at customer data and how they're interacting on your social pages and looking at analytics. So targeting against key performance indicators, KPIs, is really
Mm-hmm.
important in kind of figuring that out too. So it is really scalable, but it's really coming alongside a business owner and helping them tell their story at the end of the day.
What do you think like how do you think our digital world, where branding isn't local anymore. Our brands are
Right.
really on a world stage these days
Hmm.
with our digital online media. How do you think that has affected the way we think about branding today, or how has it had to change like the way you approach branding?
Yeah, I think it gives brands that opportunity. You're always on, you're always under that microscope, but it gives you the opportunity to get in front of your customers in a way that we've never been able to before. So,
Mm,
we talked about personifying your brand and that personalized connection. Well, the digital world gives you that opportunity. Your customers are right at your fingertips, just kind of waiting for you to give them that message. So I think it is a challenge, right? There's a lot of platforms. Which one should we be on? How often should we be posting? All of that. But it also just is an opportunity to create that personal relationship with your customers, which is
hmm
just amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And I think to your point, it's why people crave that more these days, and
Totally.
even more so makes that need for connection even stronger.
Yeah.
Because we're more connected, but we're less connected, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, in
Yeah.
the world today.
Yeah. And we just expect things to happen. What's the brand should just understand what's next. What am I wanting? We just kind of have that immediate need to feel understood. And so I think it offers a positive and also a challenge.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned KPIs,
Yeah.
and I think one of the reasons why brand strategy is difficult for people to kind of digest as a business owner is that um, it doesn't necessarily equate one to one with ROI. It definitely does contribute, but not that direct. Like I put it in here
Yeah.
and I see it out here. It's not
Yeah.
as direct as that, and so that can be difficult, I think, as a business owner to chew on or to swallow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But what are some of the KPIs, and key performance indicators is what that means, for your brand, that you kind of can see, you know, the effect of having a good brand strategy.
Brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say it comes like once you have your brand, say we deliver you your brand foundation package, your identity, and all of those pieces. The next really piece is creating a strategy with tactics for your goals. And so that's where maybe the website that Sarah would create, or we have, different pieces, email marketing journeys. Those all have metrics and KPIs tied back to them. So it kind of is just this big circle of your brand has to be strong in order for you to have strong KPIs.
Hmm.
So I think, kind of you have to take it one step further for tactics, but global awareness from a brand strategy, your sales, I feel like just global numbers should increase once you're telling your story
Hmm.
consistently.
Yeah.
But having that marketing strategy with tactics tied to it is really going to help you take and elevate your brand, and kind of give you that runway to seeing that return on marketing investment that you're looking for.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep.
They go kind of hand in hand. Phase one, phase two.
For sure. Yes. Yep. Exactly. You mentioned something about sales funnels. How does a sales funnel relate to branding? I think that's a good thing to maybe dig into a little bit and understand where that comes
Yeah.
into play.
I see that as kind of that next step for the marketing strategy. So once you understand your customer and you understand your goals of what you're offering, the sales funnel is a visual journey from figuring a customer, finding your brand and awareness. They have to know about who you are, and then they have to become interested in what you have to offer. They go into consideration, considering your product, and then they go into action of actually, maybe it's clicking the link, maybe it's purchasing your service, maybe it's requesting a call, and they go into loyalty at the very end. And so no matter what product or service you're selling, your customer goes in and out of the sales funnel throughout the whole buying process. So it's important then your marketing strategy or tactics are answering questions that your customer would have along the way. So just knowing your brand is really important to be able to answer those questions. It really is aligning the right message at the right time with the right people. And so that's just, we kind of always come back to the sales funnel because everything we do should tie back to some point of the customer journey.
I was just jotting down sort of how we were going to summarize the branding discussion we've had so far. Is there anything that you want to add about branding that we haven't covered so far that you want to make sure people take away from this episode?
I just think everyone needs some sort of branding or just some help in elevating the brand and telling your story. So I think it's okay to say, I have a great foundation, but how can I plus it? And that's what we're here to do, is come alongside you and really plus it and help you stand out in the market. So I think all things said, we just want to help brands stand out.
Yeah. I was going to say, so to summarize, people need connection. They need to connect with other people. They need to connect with their community, and they need to connect with your business on a personal and emotional level. People need to understand why they should choose you. They need to understand what makes you different. People need, business owners, I guess, need to understand that your brand is much more than your logo. It is what your company says, how you say it, how you show up, how you interact with your customers. It is every aspect of who you are as a business. And a good brand strategy is going to pay off in spades down the line when you start, executing your marketing strategy. Because if you've done your brand strategy work, you're going to have that dialed in on what you need to say, how you need to say it. And that's just going to make all of those marketing tactics more successful, as well as engaging your internal team, which is a huge piece of this too. If you've got, customer facing employees that are the face of your brand, they need to feel that strong brand story too, and be able to tell that story to your customers as well. So yeah, I think that summed it up. How was that, Kilee?
I think you did great. Yes, that was awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Kilee, and digging into what branding means and what it is. I think hopefully for those that joined in and are listening to this, hopefully you feel like you've got a better understanding of it and feel a little bit more empowered to go forth and tackle your brand. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. How can people get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more about what you do?
People can find me at bondimarketing.com. I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook, so you can come check us out. I'd love to chat more.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kilee. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Talk soon.
Have a great one. Bye-bye.